Let me start off by congratulating you on being the 12th president of ABEOKUTA Club. It's a great club. It's a club that a lot of people hold in high esteem. And I'm wondering how does it feel being the number one person in the club?
Well, let's just thank God for His grace, because it is only by His grace. If you look at the caliber and the nature and the capacity and the pedigree of the people who make ABEOKUTA Club, you know that it's a real privilege to be allowed in that seat for a couple of years. And I am grateful to God, equally grateful to the elders, the founding fathers, and the owners of ABEOKUTA Club for giving me that honor and that privilege to hold sway as a president for the time being.
Okay. At the time you joined, sir, what was the attraction? Why was there a need for you to join ABEOKUTA Club? How many years ago?
Well, I joined ABEOKUTA Club almost 24 years ago, but I would say that most of us have looked up to our parents and some of our role models over years, and we have seen them as shakers and movers of ABEOKUTA Club. And we had attempted to even come close to the club at that time, but we were told that no, it's not for everybody. So we stayed away and we were watching them. At the time when they felt that, well, these young boys have added age, and they assumed that we might probably added maturity, and they wanted to start giving us a chance, that was when some of us started coming back to move near. But at the time when we first attempted to join, and they scared us away, we stayed off totally. Because the people who were there at that time were the movers and shakers of Nigeria, not only movers and shakers of Ogun State. And we felt that, well, it's their turn, it's their game. So when it became necessary for them to allow the younger ones, they gave us opportunity. They had we believe that they had an age limit to the entry point at that time. And they consider that you must have been accomplished, irrespective of whatever age you are, before they can even allow you to move near membership, talk less of leadership. But it's a good thing to be president of ABEOKUTA Club.
So I was going to ask you, what are the requirements for those who want to join? What's it like in terms of age, in terms of status and all that?
Well, the basic requirements for joining as a member, full member of ABEOKUTA Club, you must come from this geopolitical area, the EGBA. However, there are opportunities for honorary members to those who are not EGBAs, but who must have contributed tremendously to the development of EGBA land and our people. And then the age limit, I don't know how to answer that one, because we have seen different categories of age brackets being admitted into the club. I have seen somebody over 80 being admitted after 80. I've seen over 70, very many. I've seen over 60, and I've also seen 45. So it depends on how much you have been able to contribute towards the development of EGBA land and how focused they have identified that you have been before you are allowed in.
Would I be right to call it a social club, or is it more than that?
Well, it's a social club, but it's more of a movement than a social club. It has its own focus, it has its own agenda, it has its own programs, and it has its own basic principles that established it. And the founders are guarding very jealously those principles. It's not a place that anybody can just feel that because I have some little change, I want to go into the club, or because I have one or two opportunities or connections, I want to try my hands on the leadership. Leadership here is not automatic. You're put under some serious observation for a minimum of 8 years. That's why we have a structure of second vice president, they will watch you for 4 years. First vice president, they will watch you for 4 years, and then before you come into president. The mere fact that you have come in as a second vice president and you have been moved to the first vice president doesn't mean you automatically become the president. If they find you wanting, they have their own way of asking you to excuse them, and they will continue with the club.
There's an event that is coming up. I think the President's Night. What do we expect that event?
Well, the President's Party is purely a social outing that gives the President an opportunity to host and feast members and their families and friends. It's usually done once every 2 years. Particularly, it is kept at the election year. During an election year, which is once every 2 years, we don't have a president's party. We have a changeover of guards. We have an investiture of a new president. And then the next year, we will now, in appreciation, wish to host members. We have to bring in their families and bring in friends and showcase to the whole world what the club is made of. And that's the kind of party that we have ahead of us on the 16th of January, 2021, by the grace of God. We're looking forward to it.
When you came into becoming the president of the club and your school, what were the things you promised to do or you planned to do, and how are you trying to achieve all of that?
Well, the structure of ABEOKUTA Club, which allows you to start leadership from the second vice president and first vice president, has given you opportunity to expose yourself to the areas that you want to address. When you are second vice president, you are in the leadership cycle. Things that you probably try to convince your president at that time and probably maybe is not prioritized and you are convinced in it, you mark it down. And when I become president, I'm going to look at this project. By the time you become the first vice president for another 4 years, and you have also tried to convince the next or the subsequent president, and it's probably not as prioritized it as a project, you also mark it down. But in my own case, when we came in, we had a program cut out for us, and the very first day that we came into office, we hit the ground running because we identified the projects that we wanted to go into. We felt that ABEOKUTA Club has lacked physical development for some time, and we felt that we can do it. And as an engineer, you know, that's my environment. I mean, the built environment. I was more interested in the physical development, which we have tried to do in the first 2 years. And we have also done human capital development also. But we changed the face of the membership style and the way the members are also brought in, and the quality and status of who is considered to be eligible into membership. We consider that as human capital development. We now have highbrow quality members that cut across all walks of life right now. And the next program that we want to go on into is to see how to now bring in those members in their different fields of endeavor to impart on the growth and development of the club. That's the next phase that we're trying to go down.
What stands ABEOKUTA Club separate from other clubs? Because I know there's so many social clubs in the country and all, but in the case of ABEOKUTA Club, what makes the club unique?
That's $1 million question, and the best way I can answer that is to say that ABEOKUTA Club is peculiar, very peculiar. Until you get in there, you cannot understand the club. The perception about the club when you are aspiring to be a member is completely different from when you now get in there and you see the club better. You see, there are a lot you will not see from outside. The moment you are in, there are a lot more opportunities for you to see quite a lot number of other innovations and drives and concepts and principles which will now guide you in understanding the club much better. ABEOKUTA Club is just a peculiar movement in Nigeria, and I am proud to be a member of ABEOKUTA Club, very proud to be a member of ABEOKUTA Club. Yeah. And what I'll just say is that the best way to answer that question is for those who are qualified to be members, they should try and come in. Maybe they will understand the best way to answer that your question better. You see more when you are in there than from outside.
The membership strength is like how many?
Sorry?
The membership strength of the club right now?
The membership strength of the club is total membership. You know, a club that is dynamic will bring in fresh people. Who are we calling fresh? 50 and above, 45 and above, 60 and above. While those that are there will also be dropping their baton gradually. And for as long as they are getting older, they have value of wisdom. We see tap from their wisdom, some of us that are younger. So we consider everybody who's a member part of the strength. So we don't see it, the membership membership as a number. We don't see it as a drive. We don't see it as determined by a fixed number, but determined by the strength of the ability of the old, the middle class, and the young to interface, each person playing his own role towards the development and strength of the club.
How many members do you have now?
Right now, we can say we have over 500 members. We have over 500 members, but you see, they are categorized. When you get to a certain age, you are allowed to step down and do things at your pace. You are exempted from paying subscription because you assume that you should be enjoying your retirement age. Although a lot of them, because they know and they have value and they love the club, even despite the exemption, they still pay just to encourage the leadership of the club to do a lot more and develop the club better. But after a certain age, you are allowed to slow down, you are exempted from paying subscription. But when we need you, when we need the elderly ones, we go back to them from their wealth of experience and say, this is what we have in mind. How do you see it? They will say, fine, it's a good program. But why don't you look at the approach into the program from this perspective, then they'll be able to now advise us from their wealth of wisdom. And we have always seen that wisdom is always there. So we have a structure that we call the elders in the club.
Looking at the membership of the club, one sees that you have a lot of accomplished people from Igbaland who are members of the, going back to those in the 80s, 70s, and all. How were you able to, how was the club able to put all of this together in terms of having all the, like, those you can call the who is who in Igbaland or in Ogun State as members?
Well, I think that has to do with the membership admission strategy. We don't rush into membership. So the people that you have seen today as accomplished, they've been identified much early as responsible, complete gentlemen who will add value not only to the club, they will add value to the state, they will add value to the nation. They are not only accomplished Nigerians in Igbaland or of Ogun State, they are also accomplished gentlemen all over in the world. And I know that if right quality caliber of people are brought in as members, the club can only do better, because that's when you now start to appreciate the personalities who are now new members. They are not good members, or they are not accomplished men because they are members of ABEOKUTA club. No, they've had the right foundation, and at the point of entry, the club has identified properly the right number of people. You hardly see any rancor-driven issues in the club, because the process is very simple, seamless, and advantageous. And that is why I said some of the things that you see when you are when you are inside are different from what you see from outside.